Greetings, fellow action figure connoisseurs, and welcome to another episode of Digital Caveman Presents Surprise Thursday. I, as always, am your host, the Digital Caveman, and today I will be presenting you with Playmate's new Star Trek The Next Generation, Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Let's get into it. Make it so. Let's make it so with a look at the packaging. And I will have to say, this packaging is very, very reminiscent of the original Playmate Star Trek line's packaging. The starship in the back. Of course, I don't remember the cards being this wide. I don't think that they were. But anyway, here we have on the front the Enterprise, Star Trek The Next Generation. As you can see, mine's kind of come undone a little bit, and it's in rough shape. Thank you, Amazon. Captain Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek The Next Generation. They should have added duty uniform to that. Bonus Starfleet action base. Starfleet gear, Type 1, hand phaser, tricorder with holster, personal view screen, and pad. That's personal access display device for all you people who were thinking it was something else. Warning! Don't stick things in your pie hole that don't belong there. Assortment number, Playmates, 4 and up. 35 years of the Next Generation. On the back, same kind of stuff that they had on the back of the original cards. Again, not as many, because there were much more characters available in the first couple of waves than just these. But here's the cross sale: Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Lieutenant Commander Data, Commander William Riker. Star Trek The Next Generation. There's the Enterprise with some space beams shooting all around. Starfleet gear, Type 1 hand phaser with beam. I really wish they hadn't done that. And there's some descriptives about the Type 1 hand phaser. Pad, and some notes on that. Personal view screen with some notes on that. Starfleet action base. Not a great action base like the originals that actually looked like the comm badges for each series that they went with. And tricorder with holster. And then there's some description for that also. And then here's Jean-Luc Picard. Scan the Q code. For parents only. Access granted. Starfleet personnel record database printout. Subject Jean-Luc Picard, species human, rank captain, assignment commanding officer USS Enterprise NCC 1701D. Star Trek The Next Generation. Aboard the USS Enterprise NCC 1701D, Starfleet's flagship, Captain Jean-Luc Picard leads an elite crew on its continuing mission to boldly go where no one has gone before. Symbols I'm not going to learn. Barcode, 4 and up, assortment number, item number, Playmates, Star Trek universe, and small fine legalese, PlaymatesStarTrekToys.com. That, my friends, completes our look at the packaging. Let's take a look at the figure and his accessories. And first of all, I know that generally we talk about 6 or 7 inch scale here on Digital Man Cave, and this is a 5-inch scale figure. And honestly, it's because in the 90s I was heavily into the Playmates Star Trek line, because I was heavily into the Next Generation. I still am. And I was just really curious to see how this compares up with the other stuff. So let's start with the handy dandy tweezers and a look at the accessories. And first up, we have the Type 1 phaser, which I'm honestly gonna say I really think this is the original mold. I couldn't find one of these, so. But if it's not the original, I mean they just copied the crap out of it just for nostalgia's sake, because this Picard doesn't even need this extra bit on it to hold it in his hand. But there is some molded detail in there. As you can see, it's kind of twisted, melted, I'm not sure. But it's, anyway, it has that. And it also has, just like the original Playmates line of figures, it has the beam coming out, which is one of the things I always disliked about the line. Which, I mean, it's not that big a deal. You can just snip it off, but you really shouldn't have to. Here, next up, we have the pad. And again, nice molded details. A nice little sticker would have been nice there, Playmates, or a few stickers. And then even a little bit of molded detail here on the back. And here's the tricorder with holster, which it doesn't have a holster. But very nice, fine details in, well, I say fine, they're small details because this is a small accessory. And here's the view monitor. And again, very reminiscent of the original. I would be really surprised to find out if these weren't the original molds. I'm really not sure. That's how close it reminds me of that. And then here is the Starfleet action base. And I have to say, this piece is disappointing. The original figures came with bases that were comm badges that matched up to the show that they were from. So, you know, Next Generation had the oval behind, and then you know, as things progressed, then they got the other shade, the Voyager comm badge, I guess you could call it. So now let's take a look at the figure himself. And I won't say this is the greatest Patrick Stewart likeness, but it's close. It's a decent approximation of the actor during the time period in which it's supposed to represent him. And it's definitely much closer than the original figures, and we'll look at that some when we get to the comparisons. He's got his 4 captain's pips there, his 4 pips designating him as captain. Comm badge with some nice little paint apps on it. And I'm not sure if this is molded in black or red, and which bit is the paint. I'm assuming, I'm gonna guess that it's molded in red, and then everything else is just painted on. And it's got a little bit of a paint app here around the collar where they had the bit of color that was actually on the collar, and you can see there's a little bit of paint slop. And boy, they wanted you to know that it was Playmates. And the uniform has a decent amount of, you know, wrinkles, detail in it. Enough that you know this is supposed to be fabric and not just shiny plastic, I guess. Now getting down here into the legs, it's a little, I don't know, the plastic doesn't look as good as it does on the arms and the torso, and that may be because this is just straight up just black plastic. A paint app that they did miss, there used to be, I believe, just a little stripe of color around the boot cut here, I guess you could call it, on the bottom of the pants. Oh, there's a number on his foot. I wonder if he's limited edition. I don't think so. Not like the originals. And I never collected for the numbers anyway. Now let's talk about his articulation. At the head, it's on a... I want to say it's a ball. But it could be a dumbbell. But it doesn't move like it's a dumbbell, so it's probably just a ball. So he can look up that high. He can look down just slightly. He has no chicken neck. There is a little bit of waggle in there. And he can do the full exorcist. At the shoulder, full 360 degree rotation. And it comes out slightly better than 90 degrees. At the elbow, it's on a hinge and swivel. Gives you less than a 90 degree bend, and it will swivel a full 360 degrees. At the wrist, a 360 degrees rotation, but no hinge, so there's no in and out or up and down movement. Nothing at the waist, which is quite disappointing. At the hips, he can give you that much of the splits, which is pretty decent. He can kick forward that far, and he can kick back that far, so that's not bad. Better than some Marvel Legends. Hinge and swivel at the knee. Swivels full 360 degrees and gives not quite a 90 degree angle, or 90 degree bend rather. And at the ankles, doesn't really tilt down any, tilts up as far as the pants will let it, and it's just on a hinge. There is no pin for rocker, so there's no rocker, no bicep cut, and no thigh cut, and frustratingly no waist cut. That, my friends, is a look at the figure and his accessories. It's time for my favorite part of a review, comparisons, and here we have a plethora of Picards. The Season 3 and on standard duty uniform Picard, the Season 1 and 2 duty uniform Picard with the wrong pants legs, and the Season 5 Captain's uniform. Here we are with another grouping of Picards, with the Romulan Disguised Unification Part 1 and 2 Picard, next to the Star Trek Generations Picard, and of course, Locutus of Borg. Locutus is actually the closest likeness that the original Playmates Star Trek line got to Captain Picard himself, in my opinion. Your mileage may vary. For our final set of figure comparisons, here we have the new Picard with Guinan, Judge Q, and Captain Q. And for our very last comparison, and possibly the most important, is how this new Picard works with that original Playmates Next Generation Enterprise D Bridge playset. And as you can see, he works pretty darn good. Even though he's slightly taller than the original figures, the seats and stuff on this are a little oversized because of the way that the figures sit. they all had this, let's see if I can get it in here, this V-cut, which wouldn't let them put their legs straight out, only at an angle. So this was the one thing that I really wanted to know, was how well he scaled up with this original bridge playset, because, you know, the chances of Playmates making another one of these is pretty slim, unless it's a crowd-funded HasLab or Mattel Creations type deal. And, you know, just the prices on those are usually pretty outrageous. And this, for the time, hell, even now, this is a very good and accurate playset. Now, yes, there are some issues with it. It doesn't have all the details that you might like on it, like you know, well, you can't see it because the seat's in the way. But the console here, that number one, or Counselor Troy, whoever was sitting in the other chair, you know, this console is kind of far away from the chair, and it's really too close to the I don't want to say navigator, the control station. And, you know, so it did have some issues, but, you know, it was a very forward-thinking playset. It has, you know, the wall pieces on the side could be opened up so that you could play in it. There's a view screen that goes, you know, right here, where I've got that pulled out just to make this shot. And, you know, both set of doors here in the back open up, and it was intended, there was an engineering playset to go with it also. You know, I'm kind of getting off a topic here of Captain Picard, but, you know, there was an engineering playset too that connected to it, and I think there were plans to eventually do other sets that would connect up. There was a transporter room too, if I'm not mistaken. Never had the transporter room or the engineering, although I came close a time or two to getting that engineering station or engineering set. But I think eventually, had the line continued and the playsets done better than they did, you know, they would have made other sets to connect up to this, like the ready room or briefing room, you know, stuff like that. But one can always hope. And but I don't think we'll see the like of this again, unfortunately. Again, unless it's some kind of crowd-funded deal, which, you know, it would just depend on how well it was put together and what the price of it was to even consider that for me. I have backed no crowd-funded nothing ever. So, boo on me. That finishes up the comparisons. For final thoughts on Playmates' new Star Trek The Next Generation Captain Jean-Luc Picard, I have to say I was a little bit more impressed with it than I thought I was going to be, but I was also a little disappointed with it as well. Having been a big-time collector of the original Star Trek line from Playmates, you know, there were some expectations from me that just didn't get met. The absence of a waist swivel is quite disappointing. And you know, this version of Captain Picard, you know, he's missing a lot of the articulation of, you know, well, I'll say a lot. He's missing 3 points of articulation, and some of it they've just moved. On the bright side, he does have ankle tilt, which is great. I mean, it's great that he has it. The range of it isn't superb, and it really wouldn't have hurt to have a rocker in there as well. He's missing the bicep swivel that the original figures had, and you know, that's kind of offset with the hinge and swivel at the elbow. And at the knee, you know, they didn't have a thigh cut. The original figures didn't have a thigh cut. For some reason I was thinking that they did, but they don't. And so that as an addition would have been good. It's not a deal breaker for me. The likenesses are much better, or at least on this figure is much better than on the original line of figures. The paint apps seem to be much better. There, you know, it still has a little bit of slop on some of the fine details, but there's not really that many fine details going on. Where it really counts is his rank pips and his comm badge. You know, that's pretty spot on. And the only real paint slop was just on the collar. I do like the fact that they have wrist articulation as opposed to the originals that didn't. So, you know, there's pluses and minuses for both sets of figures. It's really a mixed bag. If you never collected the original figures, then, you know, this may not appeal to you. Then again, you know, it's been a while since we've had a decent Star Trek figure also. In my opinion, you know, in this type of price range. I am considering checking out at least one of the Super 7 Next Generation Ultimates figures, just maybe to see how they are. That's the reason I got this one. I just wanted to see, really, it satisfied my curiosity. And, you know, I got it on sale on Amazon, so it's, you know, I like it okay. He's a decent figure for this scale. Like I said, the biggest issue is it with no waist swivel, which really kind of sucks. As far as the mold goes, you know, it's pretty good. They'll reuse this mold as much as they can. You know, it's almost every Starfleet officer you could get away with using this mold, except for maybe Riker, who's slightly taller. And I don't know what else to say. I mean, like I said, it's a mixed bag. If you collected the original figures, there'll be things about this you like and things you don't. If you never collected the original figures, there'll be things about this that you like and things that you don't. And I guess I've rambled on long enough. That does it for the review. I hope that you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it. Only support from viewers like you make this programming possible. Each view does count, and I do appreciate each and every single view that I receive. Thank you, and thank you so very, very much for supporting this channel through viewing. Comment below, like, share, subscribe if you'd like to see more reviews, or just help the channel out further, or both, that's even better. And don't forget to ding that bell so that in the future you will be notified as my new content becomes available. That's a wrap, folks. I'll see you next time.